Well, good afternoon. This is September 12th, 2017. I'm here in unbelievably beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. And there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. I am getting more and more concerned as the stock market keeps going up and up and up. And yet, it seems like it's never going to have a couple of bad days. So, this is all well and good. One thinks this is just great. It's just that I'm a great believer in cycles, and the cycle is getting very, very long in the tooth. And I'm watching the PEs just keep going to historical highs. The PE ratio, the Case-Shiller PE ratio for the S&P is over 30. I think it's 30.82. Now, let's just sit back and talk about that PE ratio for just a second. So the price-earnings ratio it reflects how rich it is, and of course typically we like to see 14, 15, 16 as the average. Here we are at 30, so that of course is a little bit of alarm. But how do we get to 30? A lot of these the earnings really haven't gone anywhere, but what we see is that per share earnings has gone up. The per share earnings, and as everyone knows, a lot of these Fortune 500 companies have been buying back their stock. So even though the earnings really haven't gone up too much, the earnings per share has gone up. So that makes the balance sheets look so terribly much better. And of course, a lot of these CEOs get paid on price per share earnings performance. So it's a win-win-win. But here, how are they retiring these shares? They're going out and borrowing money to do that. So instead of building their business and taking money to build plants and equipment and trucks and computers and working on their productivity, CEOs are going out buying back shares, doing financial management rather than business management. So that's really, really a concern. So you keep seeing the stock market go up and up and up. That's wonderful. There's flags everywhere for that. So I'm a great believer in cycles, that we are really long in a cycle. This is one of the longest cycles possible. You know that one of the people I follow is Charles Nenner. And Charles Nenner has issued a proclamation that he wants all of his followers out of the stock market as of July 1st, out of the stock market and out of the bond market. So let's just talk about what's going on. Today we had, actually I guess it was yesterday, we had a good day in the stock market. We also had a really good day in the bond market. So you saw an awful big inflow of cash into the bond market itself. At the same time, you see an awful big inflow into the stock market. So how is that possible? That the people who are buying bonds think that the interest rates are going down. I mean, we're pretty low. I mean, we got up as high as 2.5. We're flirting with the next plateau, which will be about 2.6, 2.7. And it's come down, so I think we have a correction in a bear market for bonds. So we're actually getting a little better. And I'm hearing from some of my advisors that we could get to 1.8, 1.9. Could actually maybe get below 1.8% on the 10-year Treasury. That'd be pretty low. How would we get that? There would have to be very, very little demand for money. There'd have to be kind of a scare. People would want to be out of the markets and into something very, very conservative like U.S. Treasuries in the 10-year market. So when you have really big days like that in the bond market, you have to say, what faction is it that's thinking that the market is going to go down? Because you have two factions. One thinking the market's going to go, which is already at historical highs, is going to go even higher. And then you have the bond market where I'm thinking institutional money is fleeing to the bond market. So that's a concern. I think that we probably have some problems coming in the economy. So let me just go on these things with the earnings too. A lot of these, there's GAAP earnings and non-GAAP earnings. So there's an awful lot of creativity on these non-GAAP, which would be non-generally accepted accounting principles, which gives an awful lot of flexibility as to what's an earning and what's a cost. So when you have revenue coming in and maybe that revenue is not recorded till next year, maybe you sold something, you're not going to get it until next year. Some people can say, well, we've already sold it, so let's go ahead and book it this year and boost our earnings. That's a little bit, that would be a non-GAAP, because you really can't count your earnings until you actually get them. But I mean, that's, if it's non-GAAP, they can do things like that. Same with cost revenues. They can say, well, we're going to close this plant this year, but let's take the cost over the next 5 years. Well, it's really cost this year, but we have some flexibility in non-GAAP, so we'll take it over 3 years. So one has to pay attention to the quality of earnings that are going on. So it looks to me like revenues, true earnings for the company, and for a lot of these Fortune 500 companies, are pretty slim. So they're just buying back stock, and of course when there's fewer shares with which to divide the earnings over, it boosts the PE. So I'm concerned. I've been concerned and beating the drum for 6 months, 9 months, with a year. I think that we have some trouble coming. So I'm not sure how these 2 hurricanes that we just had are going to impact the economy. Certainly going to have some kind of impact. I'm not sure if it's going to be negative or positive. It should be great for people who are rebuilding houses and cleaning them up, and the restoration should be great. Certainly going to put a strain on taxation, going to put a strain on municipal revenues. It's going to put a strain on insurance companies. They're not getting any yield anyway, so where's this cash going to come from to pay for all these cleanups? And of course, a lot of these people didn't have flood insurance, didn't have hurricane insurance, so how does that work? So there's some really strong negatives. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, but it's going to be an impact. So we've got one in Texas, one in Florida. Both of them are going to be terrible. So we'll see how that plays out. So anyway, there are times to be bold and there are times to be conservative. I think this is one of those times to be conservative. So my very best to you. We're here trying to just build wealth and keep the wealth that we have. So listen, my very best to you. If there's anything that we can do for you, we're here to help. We'd like to get you out of debt and help build some investment portfolio for you. I still think housing is probably peaking around the country. There are still some very, very good marketplaces in the corridors. I was saying Florida, I was saying Texas. They've both been beat up pretty badly. So one would have to be a little concerned here in Arizona. Of course, we don't get tornadoes, we don't get hurricanes, we don't get earthquakes. So that's why we get an awful lot of these high-tech companies that do the cloud. So they do cloud storage here in Phoenix area, because it's so stable. We have these huge warehouses with 500, 6,000, 100,000 square feet that are just floor to ceiling of servers. That's the cloud. We don't get hurricanes. So I've been saying put your money in Florida, put your money in Texas. I don't know we can say that anymore. So here in Arizona, we still have a shortage, which is hard to imagine. We're just getting more people. We're getting 222 people a day moving to the Phoenix metropolitan statistical area. And we just are not building enough houses or apartments to house all the people that are coming. So actually, as hard as this is to believe, we actually have a little bit of a shortage for housing. So here we are. This is Michael. You're welcome to call me. We're still thinking that reallocation is a smart bet. You don't have to take all your money out of the markets. We do suggest taking some and reallocating. If you're underweighted in real estate, please call us. We're here to put them into some very, very, very conservative single-family homes with mom, dad, and a couple of kids in the properties that really set down roots and they become long-term tenants. So, you can manage yourself, or we have management companies that do absolutely everything for you. So, give me a call. We'll put my number on here. You can contact me through michaeldouville.com. So, my very, very best to you. Bye-bye now.